There we go. The Process Show. Thursday, September 27th, and I am, if you didn't catch the morning baseball show, I am back and better than ever with working internet, which makes this a lot easier and makes me a lot happier.
This is good to know.
Oh, God, what a frustrating couple, or 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever it was. So, we're going to take a closer look at some NFL conversations here. This is a 6-game baseball slate. You're not going to get a lot of good process information from the final Thursday of the Major League Baseball season from us. So we're talking NFL. If you came here for baseball, I mean, hang out. It'd be nice of you, but that's not what's going to happen. Laffy, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing, man. Got one more deep dive article left for baseball, and then it's on to basketball. I started my prep work for basketball. Felt pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually, excuse me, I have a prepper that I'm going to put out. I'll probably going to tweet it out that I do each year with, all the relevant information you need for basketball. It gets you started. It's people that work like 40 hours a week plus and don't work in fantasy sports don't always have the time to get into the numbers and everything. But I'm stoked for basketball. I can't wait, man. A little more than 2 weeks away, and we're there. Football's already in full swing. It's a good time to be alive. And look, I'll be completely honest. I've said this before. Baseball is a very long season. It's a fun sport. But once you get to this point where it's hard to analyze anything anyway because you don't know what lineups teams are going to run out to begin with, it's tough to talk about on camera. It's tough to write about. So it's best we just move forward at this point.
No, it really is. There's no hot takes left.
Mm-mm.
They're gone. Right. They're gone. You can only talk about it's the same reason that I hate the end of the NBA season. We've got all right. So apparently we are going to have a mild amount of baseball talk here, but we'll be done with it quick.
This is daily fantasy talk.
Yeah.
It's an umbrella discussion.
Yeah. Garrett Cole is 12-8 on DK today. The next closest pitcher is 9-8. The Astros are clinched. There is weather in that game. To give a hot take on Garrett Cole, who's projected for 50% ownership, is essentially impossible at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's probably impossible at 6:30 tonight.
Yeah.
If there's some sort of rain delay, Garrett Cole is never going back out on the field. He's not. But he also has the upside that is miles higher than probably any two pitchers combined on the slate today. And there's answer to that.
I just go play the showdown for the Thursday night football slate.
Yeah. We're not talking about talent and matchup any longer. We're talking about opportunity and we're not talking about the things that I like about DFS, and it's the reason that I hate the last 2 weeks of the NBA season when Alex Caruso plays 39 minutes or something ridiculous. Or who's the dude for the Lakers that came up and got real hot? He had never played before in the NBA, came up, went for 25 and
his dream was to be an NBA player, and he achieved that dream. I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about. Why would we remember it? He'll never play again. But exactly.
Right. He was probably the second or third best value of the entire slate that day. I hate that shit.
Right. It's the same thing 2 years ago when Tyler Ulis was playing literally 48 minutes a game in Phoenix. Literally 48 minutes a game.
Yep. Yeah, because they didn't have a point guard. Another point guard.
Right. And they'd been out of it since November. So
I was going to say since October, whatever it was.
Exactly. Since the season began. Yeah, no.
Interesting to see that the Suns did not shore up that point guard position yet. Get ready for Tyler Ulis going 48 minutes again in April.
I know, right? I know. Honestly, yeah. Well, they got they got really nobody at point guard. You're right.
Their point guard's going to end up being Tyus Jones or Jeff Teague or something if this Butler trade goes through.
Yeah. It could be interesting. I think
Suns depth chart. Who the hell is their point guard?
Right now, it's Okubo. Eli Okubo.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
Is there and Isaiah Cannon is the the number 2. Shaq Harrison is 3 on the depth chart. Yeah, it's
What a
really
shitty
solid.
team.
Oh yeah, I mean you got DeAndre Ayton, which is nice. You got Devin Booker, but like, why would you pay Trevor Ariza any money at all? Oh, and by the way,
when you already have T.J. Warren and Mikal Bridges,
yeah, right,
and Josh Jackson,
exactly. I was making my depth charts the other day for the spreadsheet that I make, the one I just referenced, and I look at a couple of them and I gauge what I think the depth chart's going to be, you know, because no one really knows. You know, like we know LeBron's going to start, right?
Sure.
You know, Embiid's going to start, but it had Ryan Anderson listed above Josh Jackson, and like maybe that happens. It definitely could. Maybe you want to play Jackson off the bench, but dude, Jackson is such a better player with way more upside than Anderson. Like Anderson is a one-dimensional player. That's all he does is jack up threes, and he's not even great at that anymore unless it's an offense that can really stretch the court.
You want Ryan Anderson on the floor with Tyson Chandler.
Right.
Not Ayton.
Exactly. Like you're not getting interior defense from Ryan Anderson. He's doing one thing. He's just running up, running back. You're going to stand around and hope that you get him the ball freed up. That's it.
Yeah.
Josh Jackson can do a lot, man. I really liked what I saw from the kid last year. Granted, he was playing on a scrub team. You know what I mean? He was playing on a team that didn't really have many alternative weapons outside of Devin Booker. But I think, you know, if you're going to try and build this team, Booker and Jackson need to be getting more run than anyone else. Oh, and Ayton, of course. But other than that, no one else should be a priority here. And Bridges.
I still have hope for Bender, but I think that he might just, and like I'd love to have seen what he would be like if he went to a different team to start.
Hey, when Bender came into the league, he was like really highly hyped. Really, really highly hyped. You know who else was?
Jonathan Bender?
Yeah.
How many Benders are just failing in the NBA?
I know, right? He's not with them anymore, but Marcus Chris. Marcus Chris, his big thing was like the guy doesn't want to play defense and he couldn't give a shit about defensive rebounding. But Marcus Chris is talented, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like I really would not be surprised that this season with the Rockets. Now, granted, he won't play a lot, but they have him behind Nene on the depth chart. I could see him easily passing Nene. I could see Chris playing like 15, 20 minutes per game and actually being decent in Houston. This is the perfect type of team for him to play with because he can play in transition. He can play at a fast pace as he did with Phoenix, but they were just so sloppy and all over the place. Maybe a little bit of discipline here would do him some good. But yeah, I liked him coming into the league, and he hasn't really shown us much either. So, God, I can't wait for basketball.
Oh, you and me both. What a weird Rockets depth chart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Paul Harden, ESPN's depth chart. Now, take this for what it's worth, but just names-wise, the starting lineup is Paul, Harden, Melo, Chris, Capella, which is just
interesting. Yeah, I have Paul,
lineup.
Harden, Tucker, Melo, Capella.
I mean, I would be starting James Ennis over probably everyone we just named. Eric Gordon almost has to come off the bench, and that's fine. But
they have some decent depth, though. And like Eric Gordon, we saw how good of a depth player he was last year, could step into the starting lineup when he needed to.
I mean, he's a starter in the NBA. He's just on a team that contends, so starter is a bit different.
Exactly. Yeah. And Gerald Green got hot on a few occasions and like single-handedly won games for them a couple times.
He's that dude, man. I love him.
Yeah, Tucker is not a shooter, but he's a good defensive player. But that's really all. You know, he's not doing much out there than probably guard the opposing team's best wing. Like that's why I think you could see Tucker in the starting lineup, because think about your wing defense or just your forward your defense outside of the point and center when you have Harden and Melo. Like you're not getting stout defense there, and you're going to try and hide Harden on anyone playing off the ball and just stick George on the point man. Tucker might actually be able to help in that area because it's not like they need much more scoring in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I don't. That's a. All right, who's the closing five for the Rockets? Oh, we're just going down a rabbit hole today. Fuck it.
Yeah,
It's
screw it,
Thursday.
right? They also got Brandon Knight, who I'd be interesting to see what he can do now that he's healthy or when he's fully healthy.
If they can get him to be on the court, that's a victory, because otherwise it's going to MCW, and he is dreadful.
He did terrible. Rookie of the previous rookie of the year.
Philly.
I think. What's that?
Philly.
That's right. I think you got to close it out. This is tough, but probably with Gordon, I just
can't.
What do you mean?
They'll get roasted. So if you're closing it out with Gordon, so you're saying then it's Paul, Harden, Melo, Gordon, and Capella?
Out. Right. But again, where's the defense?
They're dead.
Right. Here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. Mike D'Antoni does not give a shit about defense. Like, he does not care about defense. Now, I say that a little bit hyperbolically, but he really doesn't care. Do I think you can close it out with them? No. But again, that's why I'm saying I think PJ Tucker is probably in the starting lineup, and I wouldn't be surprised if he closes it out either. Who else are you going to close it out with? Gerald Green?
I mean, honestly, I think the best closing lineup that they have is Paul, Harden, James Ennis, PJ Tucker, and Capella. Although, if you want to take Tucker out for Gordon, I guess I can get there.
Like, I am not a Carmelo Anthony fan.
He should not be in a closing lineup right now. Not of a team that was essentially...
He shouldn't be in a lineup.
I mean, they are really, really ridiculous shooting luck away from being in the NBA Finals last year. Carmelo Anthony's not making that better now.
No, well, he's a ball stopper. He's a ball... Look, why would you want a guy on this team? Now, obviously, he's going to have to fit their mold or he can get out of there. Like, that's, you're not going to come in and disrupt what they have. I can't imagine that would be allowed.
No.
But Carmelo Anthony is nothing like he's nothing but he slows down the game. It's all ISO ball for Melo, and that doesn't make teams better in 2018. It actually makes them significantly worse.
It's bad ISO ball. Well, it's not James Harden shooting a step back three at 40%. It's
that's different
an 18-foot jumper from the nail.
Right. Well, Harden's one of when you have Harden in ISO, it's a little different because the guy is fucking so sorry. He's nails. He's like you could throw someone like Harden. You can bring it down the court, get a Harden in ISO, and score points. But the difference is Harden is so much more diverse than that. He can do anything, right? Coast to coast. He can jack up threes. He's a phenomenal ball handler. He can do everything. Carmelo Anthony is so one-dimensional now that you know exactly what's happening. You know he's only really producing in one facet of the game. I remember there were times last year where OKC was trying to spot him up and like just get these corner threes from him in competitive games. And he looked so uncomfortable. None of them went in. And you know what? Mid-range jump shooters are being phased out of the game so quickly now. Yeah. Outside of DeMar DeRozan and a couple of other like legitimately lethal mid-range jump shooters, the coaches know and teams know that the least efficient shot is a mid-range jump shot. Layups and three-point shots are the two most efficient and desirable shots. Three-pointers because they're worth more, and layups because you have a higher percentage of scoring. With mid-range jumpers, they're not easier and they're not worth more. Right. And you've seen them phased out pretty quickly, but that's why guys like Melo are starting to become ancient in this league.
You know what's really weird? He's going to be an amazing GPP player this year.
Yeah, I guess. I guess by process of high scoring totals and hopefully he can, do some stuff. But I don't know if I agree with that. He's not a good rebounder. Like he doesn't block shots. if it, and then you
This
have
is
Paul
such a
and
different offensive environment than Oklahoma City, though. I'm not saying that Anthony's going to be good, but he's going to be priced at like 4,400 or something stupid.
Right. If he's real cheap, then sure. I think it's like he's still, no matter what, going to have to rely solely upon scoring. Right. I don't see Melo being. And granted, Capella's not the biggest five. He's not the greatest rebounder. But James Harden will swipe in for rebounds. And I guess if there was a spot for Melo to get some boards, it could be in Houston, now that I think about it, because I haven't thought about this situation much. We're just getting into basketball now. In OKC, we know that Russell Westbrook not only darted in for rebounds, but they literally would just let him get the rebounds. Steven Adams is a big five, pretty decent rebounder.
I was going to say Steven Adams is one of the better rebounding centers in the league, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, not bad at all. So I think this, if there was a spot where he could actually have a decent rebounding share in terms of percent of total team rebounds each game, it makes sense that it could be here, because Tucker and Capella aren't elite rebounders by any stretch. It's just more so, is he going to put in the effort to box guys out in the paint and actually pull down the boards? You know what I mean? Because if he doesn't do that, then I don't really think he'll have much of a chance. You can't just wait for him to come to you.
Let's see where Melo's at. Melo last year, per Cleaning the Glass, which, good God, am I excited to be back on this website. He was a 6th percentile offensive rebounder and a 29th percentile defensive rebounder. Carmelo Anthony, ladies and gentlemen.
It's terrible.
That is some sort of shitty. Oh boy.
Terrible. I mean, you're talking about a guy that has not actually helped the basketball team in a while. I think we could agree on that.
Shockingly bad last year.
He's terrible. I'm pulling up. Hold on here. Pulling up.
He was 8th percentile in points per shot attempt last year. And that is, low numbers aren't good. This isn't golf.
No, of course not.
His effective field goal percentage, 10th percentile. Lowest of his career.
Doesn't surprise me, dude. Well, especially because, EFG factors in 3-point shots, and I don't remember him making a 3 last year.
He was, and this is why he is not the same person. All throughout his career, up until the latter stages of his New York life, he was at least in the middle of the pack and getting to the rim. Last year, 4th percentile in percentage of his shot attempts at the rim. The year before that, he was 11th percentile. He doesn't have it anymore. He's not getting to the spots that give him efficient shots. Now, last year he was 62nd percentile in corner threes. He is ramping up his game on the outside.
That's what I said.
It just might be too late.
Yeah.
You don't need a guy that can't play defense to be your corner 3 guy. You can use James Ennis in that scenario, or PJ Tucker.
Well, they had him there because, think about it. What else are you going to do in Oklahoma City? What other role does Melo play when you're playing alongside Westbrook and Paul?
None. Well, I mean, you can get into the way that he was playing. He shouldn't have been playing with those guys as much as he was, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. Oh, yeah, they should have staggered him more. But I'm saying, like, if you're not going to spot him up and just kind of have him hang out on the perimeter and not every possession, of course, but then the guy's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. It's funny because his he was so he was 4th in the team in rebound chances last year, 10.9 a game. And he had a 52.7% rebound chance percentage, which it's not terrible for a forward. It's not awful. It really isn't. And he was 4th in deferred rebounds. So it's not like he was just giving rebounds up to the team as much as you would think. Steven Adams was first, obviously, because he gives them all over to Westbrook.
Steven Adams, 97th percentile offensive rebounder for a big man last year, 14.5%. Mm-hmm. That is insane. To be able to save 15% of your team's possessions on a missed shot by recycling that ball back. I mean, he is just so damn good.
He's incredible. It was in the playoffs against Utah where Oklahoma City in the elimination game brought in 5 straight offensive rebounds on the same possession.
I remember that. Yeah.
And did not score. And Paul George took that 3 that they said he was fouled on. But yeah, Melo's average distance per rebound was actually one of the lowest on the team last year. So he was getting rebounds around the basket. Granted, when you're playing the 4, that should be the case. I guess his rebounding wasn't as bad as I thought, but everything else was.
Good God. He drew a shooting foul on just 6.5% of his shooting possessions. The 16th percentile in the league. Russ was 91st percentile. Paul George 81st. And
you have to
Melo
think about how
he's just not there. He just doesn't have he's 30. He'll be 34 this season.
Think about how bad that is when you are a guy that's used a lot in isolation and you're still not drawing fouls.
Yeah, because you can't get to the rim.
Right. When I say you're used in isolation, that's where how many times did we see Embiid draw foul after foul on back to the basket post up attempts? Clear out the rest of the court. Generally speaking, you should be able to draw fouls there if you're any bit of a threat at all. And I just don't think Melo's a threat anymore.
I don't pull up his isolation stats last year and see how he did.
I just pulled him up right now.
Yeah, okay.
Except it's so Carmelo Anthony averaged oh my God. So he averaged 2.8 isolation points per game. And he was in isolation frequency was at 18%.
Yeah.
If you felt
he was league average in isolation last year. That's the best you can hope for.
Yep.
A guy with an effective field goal percentage in isolation of 42%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not good.
0.89 points per possession.
Not good.
No, it's not. 245 ISO possessions.
And he also had a sub 10% free throw frequency on ISO attempts. Just to put that in perspective, Lillard had a 21% free throw frequency. Harden was at 20%. DeMar DeRozan 17, Giannis 15%, John Wall 20%. These guys just monster free throw numbers. Even Spencer Dinwiddie was at 20%. Melo was.
What did we say Melo's points per possession was? 0.89?
0.89, yeah.
Harden 1.22, Chris Paul 1.1.
Yeah.
Both 90 plus percentile isolation scorers. And then he's coming in here even Eric Gordon was at a point per possession and a 75th percentile ISO guy. They are bringing in a guy that is significantly worse than that. They can't, you have to, it'll be interesting to see how much power Morey and D'Antoni have to be able to tell Melo, shut the F up and get in line, man, because we have priorities that are bigger than you. Get to a Western Conference final and come talk to me, because we were 26 straight missed threes or whatever away from being
horrible,
from being the NBA champs, because they would have blew Cleveland's doors in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he had the 15th most isolation possessions in the league last year. So it's not like it's not like he wasn't used there. So he had the 15th most attempts. If I filter this by possessions, I'll filter it by
Carmelo Anthony in isolation last year was basically like a hair better than Dennis Smith.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's see. You have it. Filter it to possess. You have to have at least 2 isolation possessions per game. So Melo in that he had 3.1. He ranked 15th. Points per possession, he ranked 10, 20, 30, 33rd or something. 33rd out of 45.
So bad, man. He's so bad. All right, so here's a really good example then of guys that are playing similar size and role. Harrison Barnes had the 4th most isolation possessions last year and was at 0.96 points per possession, 70th percentile. So basically a 10th of a point higher than Carmelo Anthony. And like I don't think Harrison Barnes is some great shakes, but even he in isolation was significantly better than Carmelo Anthony last year. Now Harrison Barnes is going to be what? 25? 6? Something like that?
Yeah.
Whereas Melo's 34. That's not going to get better.
Right. No, and another big difference is if Melo's not producing in isolation, where is he producing?
Nowhere.
And the answer is nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yep.
Look, I like Melo, but this is going to be troublesome if they have to play him above his role.
Yeah, I don't like Melo. I just don't think there's anything left, and I don't understand. I don't understand why you would bring him to a team that showed so much promise last year. I just don't understand it.
Can you imagine if he got drafted in 1993 instead of 2003?
I guess
He'd be He'd be one of the greatest players of all time.
He probably would.
His skill set was the epitome of the mid to late 90s. I mean, you're getting guys like Steve Francis and shit, putting people in isolation, clearing everybody out. I mean, Melo would have been dominant. Too fast for bigger guys, too powerful for smaller guys. It would have been a matchup nightmare. You couldn't throw doubles the same way.
I mean, he was dominant in the early to late 2000s. He was
sure. I just mean like being able to get the end of his career at a time where it was still fitting his skill set compared to now, where it's just 3 bombing 3-pointers.
Yeah, it's as crazy as it sounds. I think he can fit a little bit better in Houston, but only from a fantasy sense because they're just going to play at a lightning fast pace, and he's going so. Here's the thing: I don't have any faith that he'll hit more 3-pointers, but I have faith that he'll attempt more 3-pointers. Because if you're playing on the Rockets, you better attempt more 3-pointers. You have to. You can't it doesn't matter who you are. Outside of Clint Capella, and Clint Capella, we know how he's used. Get him in the pick and roll, or get him the lob over 2 defenders' heads. You're never gonna draw up a play for Clint Capella. Clint Capella, if you look at Clint Capella from last year, right, and you look at the amount of plays that were assisted, and then the amount of plays that were assisted by James Harden, it's pretty incredible because James Harden got him the ball so damn frequently. Because why would he not, right? So many opportunities where Clint Capella's there. Clint Capella's athletic, and okay, so he had 198 made field goals assisted by James Harden last year, and 361 of 440 field goals were assisted. So,
okay,
I mean that 361. So 82% of his field goals were assisted, which is a good amount.
Yeah.
And 55% of those were assisted by James Harden. As I always say, it's not crazy in basketball. You want to play guys from the same team, playing guys that do have a legitimate correlation, it's real. Steven Adams last year and the year before, the amount of his field goals that were assisted by Russell Westbrook was outrageous. And I get it, point guard center connection is a thing on most teams, but with certain teams, it's a lot more of a thing. So when you have a good matchup for the center and that the point guard's going to get them the ball, and that's the only way they're going to score outside of offensive rebound putbacks, it's a pretty solid way to go about things. And Capella, Harden, and Westbrook, Adams have always been a really nice tandem in that regard.
Yeah, I'll be talking about that soon enough in some NBA process shows, but that right there is an excellent use of groups on Fantasy Cruncher.
For sure. for sure.
It's making sure that you run Russ with Steven Adams is key.
And it's important
that
to
style of thing, at least.
Like not running them with certain guys is important too.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't always mean that two guys can't produce, but at the same time, there are a lot of players that, when on the court together, are not buoying each other's production. They're actually holding each other down.
Right.
That's not the case with those guys at all. I always loved pairing the two because, generally if Capella has a big game, like a 20-10 game, most of those assisted baskets are coming from Harden. A little bit of that will change. A little bit of that changes when you have, what's his name, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Right. But still, like James Harden just gets him the ball as frequently as humanly possible. James Harden the year before Chris Paul came in, had 174 of 299 assisted field goals. That was 58%. So not a huge difference, but that's an element of basketball that I love.
Same.
Getting into those, correlations, because it's real.
It absolutely is. And there are times there's a different, like, you could look at guys like, last year, Lowry and DeRozan. They can both have a good game on the same day, but the things that they're doing are rarely impacting each other.
Right.
Like, they can both be successful, and when they're both going well, the Raptors would be successful. But there is not a ton of, like, whatever DeMar DeRozan is doing is not necessarily opening up Kyle Lowry as much outside of, like, drive and kick.
Absolutely, yeah, no doubt. And when you look at DeMar DeRozan, he definitely increased his assist rate last year, which was a great thing to see because he was a one-dimensional guy that you really couldn't place much faith in. If he wasn't scoring 30 real points, you probably weren't getting the numbers you needed from him. But his rebounding and his assists last year, if I recall correctly, let's see.
I have it up here. His assist rate went up by 4%. His assist to usage rate went up significantly. He was much, much better in that regard last year.
Right. And he averaged a career high 5.2 rebounds. Yeah, he never averaged above 4 rebounds a game prior to that. So, yeah, he's averaging over a steal, 5.2 rebounds, 23 points. Those are solid numbers. But you know what the biggest thing, I know we're jumping around. You know what the biggest thing with DeMar DeRozan was last year that I think probably surprised everyone was this is a guy who literally never attempted three-pointers. And last year he just started chucking them out of nowhere. Maybe it's back to what I was saying earlier that, coaching and players are beginning to understand that mid-range jumpers are not or should not be the go-to shot anymore. I mean, obviously when you're as fine-tuned the game as DeRozan, you can get away with it. But he went from attempting 1.5 threes the season before to 3.5 threes per game with a higher three-point conversion, converting them at a higher percent the next year.
He's still not doing it nearly enough. Only 18% of all of his shot attempts last year were from
but
3.
What was it the year before that?
7. Look.
Exactly.
Relative to his previous stats, yeah, for sure. But I mean, he needs to change that number from 18 to 40.
To 30.
Yeah.
33. Yeah, 30. 40,
for a wing,
exactly.
he was in the 7th percentile of shot attempts from 3. Like, that's just, he needs to change that. But he is taking them away from the mid-range. It's not like he stopped getting to the rim, which is good.
Right.
He's taking away bad shots and putting them to 3. So that's great.
And as the game continues to evolve, you're going to see more guys get away from that. Look at Houston. Look at the Warriors. They live and die, mostly live by three-point shots and around the basket shot. Like it's just how it is.
I'm really anxious to see how DeRozan works with LaMarcus Aldridge. Because LaMarcus Aldridge is essentially like the big man version of DeMar DeRozan.
I know. That's going to be interesting.
Let's see. Let me bring that up. I want to see. So Cleaning the Glass has their shot charts here. I'm going to split them out on my screen and see how much they overlap. I haven't looked at that yet. So we'll put that there.
Can you pull up Kawhi's shot chart from the season before and DeRozan's from last year instead of Kawhi's from last year?
Wait.
Can you pull up Kawhi's from 2 seasons ago and DeRozan's from last year? Because Kawhi hardly played at all last year and wasn't himself when he did.
No, I'm looking at Aldridge and DeRozan. So these are two guys that live in the mid-range. So I want to see how much they're over. Like, so it looks like Aldridge. Am I sharing my screen? That way you can see what I'm talking about here. Then we got to get you out of here in like 2-3 minutes. So this is DeMar DeRozan's shot chart from last year on the left and LaMarcus Aldridge on the right. So Aldridge is predominantly shooting in this left block area, which is not a spot that DeRozan is going to all that much. DeRozan is shooting a lot from like the free throw line area.
Yeah, didn't mean to cut you off, but Aldridge, like every single year, him and Marc Gasol are towards the top of the league in like elbow touches. And last year, I don't think Aldridge he was up. I mean, Gasol led it by a wide margin, but like Gasol lives on that elbow jumper.
Yeah.
And Aldridge loves that like you said, right on the outside of the paint. It's like he never misses that shot.
Yeah. I think that can work. I figured they were going to gum each other up a little bit more, but it looks like their main spots are in 2 different areas. We'll see though.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's Kawhi, it'll be close when I look up Kawhi. So the graphic that's here is the last, just on this page in particular, is the last 750 shot attempts that they've taken. So just basically a stripe around the outside and getting to the rim.
Let me take a look.
Kawhi certainly didn't have 750 shot attempts in his 207 minutes last year. So this is mostly the year before.
You have a lot more attempts in the paint and around the basket from like the 3 to 5 foot range for Aldridge.
Yeah.
And then more spread out 3-pointers from DeRozan. It seemed like he hates the corner 3, but wasn't afraid to spread him around the top of the arc. But he definitely so DeRozan's on the right, correct?
No, that's probably confusing the shit out of you. DeRozan is on the left. Kawhi now is on the right.
Oh, you got Kawhi on the right now. Oh, okay. Got it.
So, I mean, DeRozan's just going to have to build up this 3-point area in lieu of taking basically the shots that are right here. And
it'll be interesting to see how Dejounte Murray directs this offense too.
Yeah,
because he's gonna DeRozan's gonna do a lot of ball handling, but you're gonna see quite a bit from Murray too because he did a decent job of facilitating last year. And here's the other thing to consider though. Rudy Gay is not exactly like your best transition player, your best 3-point shooter, your best, really player anymore.
He's not. He's just incredible.
This offense could move very, very slowly.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
I mean, is Pau Gasol going to start at the 5? I'll tell you this right now. I'll make a prediction that after the first month, let's say Pau Gasol is starting and playing the bulk of the minutes at the 5, which I'm not sure will even be the case, that Jakob Poeltl will be the one that takes over at the 5 and is the number 1 guy at center for the Spurs. Poeltl is a good player. The kid's got legitimate talent. I personally loved this guy last year and was pretty high on him all season long. I expect to see if the opportunity is given, I expect to see a really big year from him with Pau Gasol on his way out. Like he's going
to learn a lot there.
I mean, per 36s last year, he was averaging 13 and 10 basically.
I don't think that either of those two guys are in the closing lineup, though. I mean, I think you almost have to move LaMarcus Aldridge to center and play Rudy Gay at the 4 to close out games.
Well, depending on the matchup, sure. I mean, you're playing in the West. So you're not going to be able to have Aldridge and Pirtle out there against like the Warriors or
impossible.
Houston. But if you're closing out a game against, say, the Grizzlies.
That's what I was going to say. Shit.
Yeah. So I think the closing lineup, especially when it comes to Pop, will be different based on matchup. But yeah, like whether it be the Nuggets or Houston, because the Nuggets should play at a relatively fast pace this year.
Yeah.
Jokic is not particularly athletic, but he can play pretty well in transition. He has like he's weirdly quick if you ever watch him play, but he's not athletic.
No.
So
not at all.
But then again, you got Millsap and Jokic in that starting line. I really do think it'll come down to who you're playing against.
I just don't know who the fifth guy is. If it's Aldridge, Gay, Murray, DeRozan, who is the fifth? I can't be Quincy Pondexter. In the closing
lineup, you're saying?
Quincy Pondexter? Marco Bellinelli?
I mean, you could easily. So Murray's not playing the 2, but DeRozan can shift to the 3. Gay can play the 4, and Aldridge can play the 5. All of them have done that before.
Yeah. So then it's Bellinelli or Patty Mills.
Yeah. My guess would be Belly, especially since he's got experience there. I would guess Belly.
Yeah, well, you never know with Pop, man. I mean, Murray went from like playing 30 minutes a game to being DNP'd. So you never know. I hate the Spurs from a DFS perspective.
So do I. And then no more Manu either.
I know, pour one out.
That's a sad time.
It is, and that means we got to go. 10:50 or 11:58 a.m. You got to be out of here.
I can't wait to start talking more basketball.
You and me both, man. You and me both. It's not so much talking more basketball. It's not talking baseball. I'm willing to talk about anything. You want to get your League of Legends takes in here? That's fine. We'll talk NASCAR. I'll do whatever as long as it's not about baseball.
Do you know NASCAR?
I know absolutely nothing about NASCAR.
Okay, I was going to say not. Like I pay very close attention to football, baseball, and basketball. I think I'm pretty versed. But I don't know where I even find the time to learn about NASCAR. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to.
No, that would not be high on the priority list. I'd get to golf long before that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, last thing I'll say.
Okay.
Wait till you see how much more defensively efficient the Thunder are this year with Andre Roberson back at the 2.
Oh, my God. They're so good.
The guy sucks everywhere else, and he is an elite defender. And I don't think anyone thought it would make that big of a difference. But my God, when he went out last year, and you had him filled in with, you were filling in with Alex Abrinas. Raymond Felton. By the way, I love Dennis Schroeder on this team. I absolutely love having some bench depth at a point guard position. They said they had no depth last year whatsoever. Their bench got crushed. Having Schroeder there behind Westbrook, maybe he was given the keys to the team in Budenholzer's system last year, and it didn't work. Schroeder proved that he's a good player, but he's not a number 1. He's not going to lead a team to victories. I know the team wasn't good, but he's just, even with high volume, or low volume, there wasn't much efficiency. Playing behind Westbrook, I'm very excited to see that. And you mentioned Melo being cheap. If we get Schroeder at like those, high 4K price points, he could be extremely productive, because I wouldn't be surprised to even see him play off the ball a little bit, because I don't expect Robertson to play more than like 28 minutes a game.
Last year, with Roberson on the court and Melo off the court, 337 possessions. They were a 99th percentile defense, 94.9 points per possession. They were a plus 9.2.
Amazing, isn't it?
In those 337 possessions.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Insane.
What one player can do.
Even with Melo on the floor, and just knowing that Roberson is on the floor, 98.4 points per possession, 97th percentile. They were a plus 8.4 point differential. I mean, that can hang with anybody.
I was going to say, just take their defensive rating from the start of the season up until Roberson got hurt, and then their defensive rating after he got hurt till the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think there was like a plus 10 point differential, which is, plus is bad in defensive rating.
If Patrick Patterson can get right this year, he's going to be a very, very interesting piece for them.
Could be. Could be. They never should have got rid of Sabonis, man. Kid's good.
Yeah, you couldn't have saw that trade coming and working that way that it did.
It really worked out. Everyone was talking about how the Pacers got robbed and such, but look back on it now. You still think so? Because Oladipo's an all-star. He was outstanding last year. I mean, how
I think
often
both teams still want that trade because Oladipo is not Oladipo if it doesn't happen, and Sabonis is not, a prized young big man.
Right. And then what happens is you come back to the question of no matter how good Westbrook is, does he make players alongside him worse? And it's a question you at least have to ask yourself. I love Russell Westbrook, but I'm not sure he adds to his teammates' game.
I think it's very clear that he does not.
I don't think he can.
No.
It's not his fault. It's just it's all he knows.
Yeah. And what he knows makes the team incredible, but not incredible enough to win the championship.
It makes him good enough to always make the playoffs, yeah. But against fine-tuned machines that fire on all cylinders and, actually can slow him down, they're toast.
They are indeed. Well, that process show talking about what your thoughts are on the NFL went well.
Hey, it's always what comes to our minds, isn't it?
Yeah, the deep dive on the merits of Carmelo Anthony. I didn't see that one coming at all, but sometimes we just need to talk about something else. From A to B, 2:30 today. Deeper dive, the final Thursday deeper dive. Laffy and Adam going at 5 o'clock. Then myself and Chris going at 6 rather. Then we've got On the Contrary from 7:15 to probably around lock for the NFL game. Chris Baggs, Alex Awesome Baker, and Evan Silva doing their third week in a row. After that, we'll have three fellas talking football. Laffy, Andrew, and Ben going over the upcoming NFL slate while the NFL game is on. So tune in, mute the game. You don't need to hear it. And listen to those guys talk about it for a while. That's it. That's all I got, everybody. Laffy, you got anything else?
That's it, man. Tune in tonight. Definitely have a lot to talk about. Really get into how we're going to break down Sunday's slate. It's an interesting one, no doubt about it. And you'll want to be there for it. So join us, like Josh said, mute the game. I'll have the game on. I'll have the game on and mute it at the same time, and we'll enjoy it.
I will have the game on while I'm sitting here producing it. Fingers crossed the internet still exists. Good luck, everybody. Adios.